The Matthias Research Ranch is a unique piece of property because on this particular land base, we combine a number of different land uses. The primary land use across the 5,000 hectare area is cow-calf production. But in addition to that, we also have a significant amount of wildlife management that goes on in the area, and we also have a lot of gas extraction, so energy removal from the ground and the provision of that energy to the public, obviously. Now, integrating that gas extraction is never without challenges, but it can be done in this semi-arid environment on a sustainable basis if done properly. So even though we're standing in a relatively arid grassland, it's a fairly fragile ecosystem, but there are things that can be done to minimize the impact of oil and gas removal from this system. For example, the well that we're standing next to here, a lot of the wells that are put in nowadays are done using very low disturbance practices. So a lot of these wells are put in during the winter time in order to minimize the detrimental impact to these sensitive plant communities. They're also done nowadays without soil stripping in order to minimize the impact, the long-term impact to soil stability and erosion and so on. In addition to that, by doing that in the wintertime, there's very little reclamation and revegetation work that needs to go on, which means that in a sensitive soil such as this one, we don't have to go through the costly process of seeding, expensive endeavors of trying to control unwanted weeds on the property and so on. So a question that often comes up is, why are we willing to put up with this oil and gas extraction on our property? Well, in the case of the Matthias Ranch, being a university property and being run as a research facility and an education facility, these gas wells bring us a significant amount of revenue. That revenue forms a basis for an endowment which we use in order to support ongoing activities in the area of research, education, and technology transfer. So if we didn't have these wells, and there's over 150 gas wells on the property, and they provide a significant source of annual revenue that we can divert into meeting the mandate of the Rangeland Research Institute and also the University of Alberta. There's a network of several hundred kilometers of pipelines that connect the over 150 gas wells on the property. And these pipelines are anywhere from 10 to 30 years old or older. And although if you go out and really look for them, it may be possible to see them, so there may be some very trace residual effect of these pipelines. For the most part, the prairie on this particular property has actually healed over very effectively. So what that means is that the natural ecological processes of maintaining the existing plant community, maintaining the hydrologic function, the nutrient cycling, and so on, all of those key processes are still intact. And functionally, they haven't really impacted any of the existing land uses. Very minimal impact. Overall, I think the bottom line is that although these gas wells certainly have an impact on the property, they also bring us a lot of benefit. And if we work very closely with the oil and gas industry to make sure this infrastructure is put in properly, using best management practices, and that on an annual basis, we maintain good communication with those companies to make sure that no negative impacts occur, they really represent a positive in the long run.